I would like to point out that this meeting is being hosted through live stream on the city website and by Zoom teleconference. City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Krupa. Councilmember Meyer.
Here.
Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lilienthal. Here. Mayor Males.
Here,
All members are present.
thank you. At this time, members of the public may only comment on an item appearing on the closed session agenda. Please adhere to the following, please adhere to the following when addressing the council. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes or less. Comments should be directed to the council as a whole and not directed to individual council members. City Clerk, are there any registered speakers?
Thank you, Mayor. There's no current registered speakers, but I'd like to call it to the Zoom call. If there's anyone on Zoom, now is the time to raise your hand and I will unmute you. And we'll give you just a few moments here. Seeing none, Mayor, there's no registered public comment.
Thank you. Council will now proceed to closed sessions. Thank you for joining us. A report of the closed session will occur after the deliberations. There any registered speakers?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I provided a little stack for the work study.
These are all of them?
They're labeled. The ones that are labeled the 7A there.
They're labeled 7A.
7A right here, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, not sure what the last name is, but can we have Mary Ann come up to the podium, please? Mari? Mari, okay.
I didn't get to. I'm so hungry.
Go ahead, Mary. Or is it on? Yeah. As long as it's green.
Now, does that sound like it's working? You can hear me? Okay. I'm Mary Ann Mari. I'm the managing member for Devonshire Downs Mobile Home Park in town. And I am the managing member for a mobile home park in San Bernardino, Thunderbird Mobile Home Park. I lived in Hemet for 40 years and I currently live in Temecula. But I'm here to speak tonight to the workshop to ask that you recognize the ordinance that's already in place and has been for years. I have been on that board for many years, and rent ordinance in Hemet is the best for both owners and residents. It protects both sides, and if you get away and get into rent control, I can speak to that because my park in San Bernardino is under rent control. It really leads to blight in a city and blight in a mobile home park. Over a period of time, the mobile home parks are just like cities. You well know if you don't have money and income and increases to match inflation and to stay up with costs, you have to cut somewhere. And you either cut in services or you cut in amenities or improvements. You try and maintain so you can avoid failure to maintain, but it doesn't leave you with much room to make the niceties and attract the best of your residents. So you're starting to see blight in the community. And San Bernardino is a good example because San Bernardino City is broke, filed bankruptcy. Crime is rampant there. The vandalism costs that it has brought on in the community is overwhelming. The owners don't have money to keep up with that. And the city has no money to provide anything for that. Getting away from the ordinance that was set up in the city of Hemet is like a bad divorce. All your money and time goes to attorneys. The city has to put out money for attorneys for suits. The residents are putting out time and money. It's just, you lose the value of working together. The best communities survive and strive by working together. The Hemet ordinance was set up to do that. And you have a representation of people that are in business, you have representation of people that own parks, and you have people represented who live in the parks and pay the rent. Everybody has a voice. This is where you get a chance to speak for your needs, to run your community, to provide the best affordable housing for residents. And residents have a right to speak for anything that's egregious or not maintained or not taken care of. It's on the books. It's available. It was voted in by the city. It works, and it's the best alternative. I can speak very much from actual experience. Rent control is not benefiting anyone, and the state is showing it across the board. And if you look and do research, you'll find that rent control really doesn't do anybody any good. Long term, short term, of course, it's always nice to get the Big Mac for $5.95, but eventually you're going to see that you're going to getting a little tiny little Mac for $15.95, and it's not going to be near as tasty. So that would be my 2 cents on the issue before it gets out of hand. You have a working ordinance. You just have to seat people to implement it and put it to the use that it was meant to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Can I have Julie Polly come up, please? I hope I pronounced your name right. Oh, thank you.
It often gets announced wrong, so you did it right. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm Julie Polly, and I sent a letter to all of you this afternoon. I'm from the Western Manufactured Community Housing Association. We represent mobile home park owners, and I've worked with you, many of you, several of you on this exact issue for several years. So we have concerns about the prospects of the notion that you have the legal authority to pass an urgent rent control ordinance because the voters of Hemet in 1979 voted in a rent review process and a rent review commission. And to amend that process would require a vote of the voters, or the Hemet voters would have to make that amendment. What has happened in the past, and Mrs. Cooper could probably attest to this, what's happened in the past, and I think has happened again, is the city has failed to keep the commission populated with commissioners. So that when you read the ordinance, there's a very defined timeline when the petition's accepted, when the hearing happens, when the noticing all happens. So there's all these legal requirements as far as the timeline is concerned, so that it can be heard before the increase is implemented and decided if it's unconscionable or unreasonable and if it should go into effect or not. So I would hope that this council tonight would be concerned about potential increases. The CPI is high and impacting everyone in different ways. And if there are unconscionable and unreasonable increases, we want park owners and residents need that process working. And so we need commissioners that can hear applications and petitions for review. And time's of the essence. So whatever my association can do, you have park owners here tonight that want to be part of the solution to find volunteers to man that commission. Maybe one of them will be a city council member someday. Mrs. Cooper is on that commission. So that's is my time up? No, I still have time. Anyhow, that's my major message tonight. And if there's any questions I can answer about it, I have some working knowledge of the ordinance that's in place. I'd be more than happy to answer. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Can I have Rod Anderson come up, please?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rod Anderson, and my family owns 3 mobile home parks here in Hemet: Hemet Valley Mobile Estates, Saddleback Mobile Home Estates, and Villa del Sol Mobile Home Estates. And we've owned our parks. We've owned parks here since early 1980s, 1983. I did, come before the Rent Control Commission one time for one of the parks. Since then, we have not been before the commission. We were never petitioned by any of our residents for many years. In more recent years, we have long-term leases. So, we're kind of exempt from it at this time. But I just think that you have a rent control commission that's already in place. And I agree with Julie that I think that the seats should be repopulated according to what the initiative says. And I think it's something that works. And I don't really know what all the particulars are on the current controversy, but I from what I do know is know that if the residents in a park are unhappy with their rent increase, they can petition the commission and have a hearing on the increase. And I think that's worked well. And I remember one time we came before the council once in the 90s, and then another time I think in the mid 2000s, and there had been talk, one of those, I can't remember which one it was now, but I'm a lot older, my memory's not so good, but I know that they wanted to amend the ordinance, and then that's at the time I remember this, I think it was the city attorney said that can't be done because it's a voter approved initiative. So the only way to change it would be to go back to the voters, and I do agree with that. I'm not an attorney though, but anyways, I was just concerned as a park owner here, and I wanted to be here tonight and get my 2 words in. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir. May we have a report from staff on this item, please?
Yes, Mayor. We're gonna get the PowerPoint pulled up. I want to thank our intrepid IT staff for that. Thank you. That was not me. So we do have a presentation here on the mobile home park rent stabilization. At the last city council meeting, the city council directed the city attorney's office to work with city staff to look into the possibility of rent stabilization for the city of Hemet beyond what we currently have on the Mobile Home Rent Review Commission. You'll recall at the time, I indicated that, we would include an analysis of the existing law. We would discuss potential changes to that law. And we would have a presentation on that. So I'm going to go through the existing Rent Review Commission. As the public speakers have noted, ordinance number 772 was approved by the voters of the city of Hemet at the special election in 1979. It established the Mobile Home Rent Review Commission. The purpose of the Mobile Home Rent Review Commission is fundamentally twofold. On the one hand, the Rent Review Commission exists to protect the owners and occupiers of mobile homes from unreasonable rent increases. At the same time, the ordinance does recognize that park owners have a right to fair return on their investment, and that there are rental increases that are necessitated by the need for repairs, maintenance, insurance, upkeep, and additional amenities. So these are generally considered pass-throughs. The ordinance established the Rent Review Commission, which again has been discussed, consisting of 5 members, which are appointed by the city council, and they serve at the council's pleasure, which means you can remove them if need be. There are 2 restrictions on how long they can serve, one of which is the initial individuals did have staggered terms. That's no longer applicable. The second issue is that you can only serve 2 3-year terms on the commission. Any individual can only serve 2 3-year terms. The composition of the Rent Review Commission: 1 member shall be a tenant. Consider them the tenant representative. Second one is an owner or owner's representative. And this can be an employee of the owner of a park. 3 members can be neither a tenant nor an owner representative, and all must be residents of the city of Hemet. This is not an unusual setup for a mobile home rent review commission. In order for the commission to act, 4 members constitute a quorum. You must have the tenant and the owner representative present. 4 for a quorum. You must have the tenant and the owner rep to have a quorum. 3 members are required to act. So if there was a petition before the commission, they could act 5-0, 4-1, 3-2. There are currently no members actively appointed to the commission. We do not have a tenant representative, we do not have an owner representative, and we do not have 3 members at large. That's likely because we have not received any petition in the city of Hemet in about a decade. They're primarily tasked with reviewing, hearing, investigating, and deciding petitions regarding rent increases in the mobile parks. Those petitions are initiated by a petition of 50% of the tenants who are subject to the increase. And the purpose is whether to determine that increase is unreasonable or unconscionable. And as I mentioned earlier, the factors that they are going to consider is whether a fair rate of return is being offered to the park owner, and whether there are any additional costs that should be passed through. You go back a slide because I skipped ahead. The mobile home park can adjust the rent increases up or down depending on the facts presented at the hearing. These hearings are public. They're open to the public. Both the tenants and the owners may be assisted by attorneys or others. Oftentimes they may have accountants or other consultants who are present. They are typically going to be held in the city council chamber. And, you know, it's one of these things where you're going to hear a lot of financial information about the parks, you know, what the park's finances are, why the rental increases are justified. Following the hearing, the commission determines how to adjust the rent. Generally, the city council is extremely, so I want to talk about these hearings. One of the commenters mentioned City of San Bernardino. I was a deputy city attorney assigned to advise the Mobile Home Rent Review Commission there before the city council decided to transition that to being a hearing officer after they had significant difficulties getting the commission to adopt rent increases that were legal. So they moved to a hearing officer. And what the public commenter mentioned is true. There is a lot of difficulty when you have a significant amount of tenants who are on fixed incomes and are burdened by rent increases. But that has to be balanced against incredibly expensive capital costs. Everybody knows that construction costs have gone up. The CPI in Riverside County has gone up 3 years in a row, higher than it's been in a long, long time. And so the Rent Review Commission's job is to balance those two things, and it's difficult. It really is. They're going to have a lot of they'll have attorneys. They will have experts who are opining on what's a fair rate of return, what the actual costs of the improvements should be, whether those improvements are reasonable in the first place. That being said, it can be very rewarding. It was also mentioned during public comment, and this is something I wanted to give my presentation on, which is the Mobile Home Rent Review Commission was established by the voters of the city of Hemet. Ordinarily, the city council has plenary authority to amend any ordinance that exists, but that power is limited when it comes to ordinances that were enacted by the voters. The city council is very limited in its ability to either repeal or amend any ordinance that is enacted by the voters. And it isn't like you could just leave this ordinance on the books and then adopt a separate ordinance that establishes a different process. The court would look to what is the purpose of the voter ordinance and what is the purpose of the city council's ordinance that's seeking to amend it. And that's what I would go back to the original purpose that we said before, which is fundamentally to balance rent increases versus the park owner's rights to fair rate of return. And I think that if you looked at enacting rent control in the city of Hemet, outside of what I would say are some limited exceptions, you would have difficulty defending that from challenge. I would say it'd certainly be uncertain, the future of that ordinance. So that being said, I do think it was important to walk through the existing ordinance because the city does have a process in place for the residents of our mobile home parks, if they receive notice of a rent increase, to have that increase reviewed by the city, and if necessary, denied or amended or adjusted. The city, excuse me, the city does have an obligation though to get this commission up and running. I can understand why there's no one on it. I can understand why it hasn't really been a priority. We haven't had any petitions in quite some time. I think that the existence of this ordinance perhaps serves as a calming effect, has a calming effect or maybe a deterrent effect on unreasonable increases. I also think that we generally have many good park owners that work with the city and work with their residents. So I think that the staff recommendation would be to receive public testimony, which we've already done, Mayor. I think the next thing would be to staff up the commission. As the speakers noted, there are timelines that we seek to operate in. They're not mandatory, they're directory. So if it did take longer, that there are remedies under the ordinance for what to do in that circumstance. But we should be striving to have timely hearings on these petitions if they do come in. And then lastly, to provide staff direction. There are other things that the city council could look at doing. One of them would be to staff up the commission, but perhaps also do some public outreach to make sure that people are aware of the commission. I think that a lot of people, maybe petition the council to consider rent stabilization because they weren't necessarily even aware of what the process was and what tools were already available to them. And so I think in addition to getting the word out that we have availability on the commission and we'd like applications, I think the council could also look at directing staff to get the word out about the ordinance itself and its availability to the tenants of our community. That concludes my presentation. If there's any further questions or direction, I'm ready to receive it. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone on the city council want to say anything at all? Sir, can you hold off your vacation for a week while we get this organized? No, I'm just kidding. Well, we get this staff, so how would we go about getting the people?
I think if the council wanted to give staff direction to actively solicit, we certainly have park owners, we have park owner associations. I think we could probably get an owner representative. They're supposed to submit 3 qualified applicants and then the council selects one. I think getting word out to the tenants in our city that we need a tenant representative, I think would be important. And then the most difficult one is, I mean, the owners and the tenants, they have an interest in getting this done.
Right.
My experience in other jurisdictions, as I said, is finding 3 individuals who don't live in a mobile home park and don't own one, who are interested in serving their community in this way. Obviously, we had at least one individual who was willing to do that, and she continues to serve the public. But I think I've seen some people who are saying that they might be interested, Mayor, and you have some experience with this. When you were having trouble finding people on the Infrastructure Commission, you told the fine folks who are willing to give up their Tuesday night to come to a city council meeting, who's willing to serve on this. I think the council may find that there are 3 people in this city willing to serve the public in this way. So that would be my recommendation. Direct staff to get that going.
So let's go ahead and get that going. City manager, if we can.
Mayor, your mic is not on. I don't think anybody can hear you.
But I wasn't talking in the mic. So let's go ahead and get that started.
Did you
We'll
have a
be-
comment, Carly? Because I have a comment. Actually, it's a question. With the mobile home tenant and or park owner, would they be disqualified if they are in fact a tenant or manager of a park that was bringing an appeal?
So the traditional rules of conflict of interest, as well as I'd say FPPC guidance on having a financial interest in the decision would govern. So I know that, the residents who came at the last meeting were clearly concerned about one particular park. I would recommend that if there is a feeling that there's likely to be a petition, that we avoid or at least strongly consider someone from that park would likely be disqualified. And we're gonna want to have a full commission available. But the answer is yes, I think they would be disqualified.
Thank you.
One of them that were here the other night.
I mean, they're certainly qualified to be appointed to the commission. But for example, if you are a tenant and it's your park that is being challenged, you have a financial interest in that decision because it's your rent that's going up or down.
Yeah.
Same if you were the owner or the owner's representative from that park, you would have a financial interest in it. So I think it's just important to be cognizant that if there is a particular issue that's likely to come forward, that insofar as someone's interested, they may be better suited to be an advocate rather than attempt to be an impartial decision maker.
Then let's just go forward with it and make sure that we hold off on certain people that were here. And
So I think
No
staff
sign.
will get the applications ready. We'll use all of our available means of communicating, but I think that we'll get applications to all of you as well. We know the more civically minded among the community, but my hope would be that,
Mm.
you know, we could potentially have applications to act on within the next 30 days for the council.
Well,
to make.
this is an existing commission, so don't we have applications already for it, or
We do not.
we do not? Okay,
If we did, we
Wait.
would have brought them to you.
We have one on file,
one on five.
one.
Okay, thank you.
And that's the end of the workshop, Mayor. If you're so inclined, I know that there's 9 minutes until open session starts.
Well, let's take a small break, a recess, and whoever has to use the restroom, or use the restroom. Meeting here. Oh, I thought I had two of these. Oh, I do. No? Just one? Yeah. Good evening. I would like to call the February 14, 2023 regular city council meeting to order. I would like to point out that this meeting is being hosted through live stream on the city's website and by Zoom teleconference. I would like to remind council to have their microphones turned on and positioned so the audience can hear. City Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Krupa,
Here.
Councilmember Meyer.
Here.
Councilmember Peterson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal,
Here.
Mayor Males.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Who do we have here for the invocation? Any? They let me down. No. Right there? Okay. Thank you, sir. If you all stand, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for gathering us all here today. We pray for wisdom and discernment for the council to make strong business decisions for the city, to guide the city into prosperity, to make it a better and safer place to live. We thank you so much for the wisdom and the guidance of Chief Poost as he finalizes his time as interim city manager. We thank you so much for the residents, Lord, that they are what makes Hemet amazing. We pray all of these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please recite the pledge with me.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. We will move to the city attorney's report from closed session. City attorney, can we get a report out?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and happy Valentine's Day.
Well, thank you.
There are no items to report out of closed session today.
Okay, thank you, city attorney. We will now move to communications from the public.
Mayor, could I interrupt? I just got a text message that Zoom isn't working.
Mayor, under the current
Thank you.
version of the Brown Act, the city council should stop the meeting until the Zoom is working.
We will stop.
IT just verified that it's live.
We are live.
Mayor, I recommend that I read the closed session report again, just in case.
Yes, sir.
There are no items to report out of closed session. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, attorney. We'll now move to communications from the public. There is a 3-minute per person time limit for all general public comments on non-public hearing items. All who wish to speak, including council members and staff, need to be recognized by the mayor before speaking. For those that wish to join by Zoom, you will be asked to raise your hand if you would like to speak. Please state your name and item you're commenting on before speaking. We will take public comment for items listed on the agenda. May I have a Rudy Rapak? Thank you, sir. Is that correct, Rapak? Thank you. Go ahead and come up to the podium.
Some photos, or do I give them to you, or? My name is Rudy Raypatch. I live at Sunrise Village Senior Complex. The pothole that I'm about to discuss, it's at cul-de-sac at Olive Tree Lane, the cul-de-sac. And this pothole has been there over 2 years. The cul-de-sac. The Sunrise Village, back side of the Sunrise Village is surrounded by the cul-de-sac. And trucks like the FedEx, UPS, and the resident's car, they use that cul-de-sac to make a U-turn. And when they go over the big pothole, which is 6 months ago was maybe 15 by 15 feet, pick up dust. Especially the dust when we have the Santa Ana winds, they blow a lot of dust. I have last year, I visited Public Works. I spoke with the supervisor. The supervisor said he'll look at it. I don't know if she did, but he referred me to engineering. Engineering, maybe they said they're scheduled to be resurfaced, the street. So I went and visited engineering. Engineering, I give them an email, give them photos, all that. This young man, Eric, he never answered. I sent him, I visited a couple of months back later, he never did. He said, oh, don't worry, I'll email you or whatever. He never did. So whose responsibility is it? We're going back and forth. I mean, it's 2 years. So that lately, Mayberry got resurfaced. San Jacinto got resurfaced. Now they put in sidewalk on the Wheeler Street. Where do we go next? You have my phone number, so hopefully maybe track me to the senior center.
Yes, sir. I'll make sure that our Public Works Director gives you a call.
We should recommend C-Click Fix also.
Yeah, we have an app. I think that he's been dealing with this for quite some time and made earlier attempts to talk to the staff. Obviously, there's been some delays, so I'll make sure that you get a phone call. But we do have an app called C-Click Fix. I think we're past that on this issue.
Next will be Tom Lodge.
Good evening. The areas between Palm and Elk, Whittier and Johnston in Sierra Dawn, constantly the streetlights are out. This has been going on for over 3 years. 3 weeks ago, they went completely out. It took them a week and a half to come out there to get some of them on. My understanding is that is the only section in that park that the city still owns. And the parks are hard to find. I understand that because it's built in 61. So I can understand all that. I've got a list of addresses that still have lights out, all in that same area. It's a senior complex. This is just, come on, it is not acceptable. That's it. Let's be real about it. Just unacceptable not to have street lights. Come on, folks. So I would appreciate it if you guys could do something about this.
Okay, real quick, are you familiar with the C-Click Fix application that the city uses to get things fixed?
No.
Okay, are you gonna stay here for the whole meeting? I can load,
Going to, but
because I can, oh, you can install that for him? Kathy can install that for you. And it's a program that the city uses, and basically you use it, you go out there, you take a picture of it, you select from a list of items that it might be street lights out or whatever the problem is. You click on that, hit next, and then you put a description, and then you send it, and it goes to the proper department, and it works.
Okay.
Okay, so let her install that for you.
I will.
And okay,
And besides, you do know
But we-
Kathy's
we-
an angel, right?
Yeah.
You know that.
yeah, definitely. I'll give this, Chief will also work on it. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jerry Ann Franklin. You missed the first of the meeting. We went over this information.
I met up with Larry outside and
Oh,
he
okay.
kind of briefed me on everything, so I won't reiterate all of that. So, but I appreciate you guys staying on top of it
Oh,
and
yeah, thank you.
everything. So thank you so much. I wanted to offer my deepest gratitude because as you're going down Myers in the evening, there is this beautiful light that shines down above from it's like a light of the gods, and you can see the road beneath you. And it is the most beautiful thing that I have seen come our way in a really long time. And I want to thank you so very much because I got this letter from our lovely city manager, Mr. Poost over there, who said the light will be coming. Now, sometimes you get these letters and you go, uh-huh. And it was amazing because it appeared. And I was so grateful for it that I even put a little thing on YouTube and said, things happen, miracles happen. They really do. And so I want to thank you so much for doing that and for following through and really making it happen, because it just goes to show you that the city does stand behind its word. May take a little while, may take a little kick in the butt sometimes, and a little pest known as Jerry Ann does sometimes make us squeak too. Or it may take the people of the city going, please, 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 please. But you guys, thank you so very much. It is deeply appreciated by all of us coming out of the Hemet Lakes West. It is appreciated by people who never sounded off. And so thank you for that. The other thing that I wanted to say is on the rent commission, the commission that will be starting back up. I have put in my application to be on that, and I seriously would like to be on that commission. So I just wanted to follow through with that. So thank you. I bow to you, and I graciously want to let everybody know and go on record that the light is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for the compliments. City Clerk, were there any electronic comments submitted to be read aloud?
None, Mayor, but I'd like to call out at the Zoom call if there's any participants on the Zoom. Now is the time to raise your hand, and I will unmute you, and we'll give you just a few moments. You have one participant. Nurse Judy, we're going to unmute you. And you're live with the City Council, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak to the City Council.
I probably don't need it. I just put in the comments, the question and answer section, that the ability to do closed captioning and transcription is not available on the Zoom link. And in a city with hearing impaired persons, I think it should be available. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. This one? Okay, we will take public comments for items not listed on the agenda. None? Thank you. We will now move to presentations. No, what's going on? I can't hear.
Where's that?
Okay. I don't have it here. Malcolm, you were messing with my stuff. No. Okay. Can I have Terry Santa Claus Leonard come up? Larned? Okay, Larned.
My name is Terry Larned, and I am also with the American Legion, Post 53. And thank you, Mayor Sales and council members. I just wanted to talk about things that are happening at the post here in the city. We have the Illusions, which is a Fleetwood Mac tribute band, and they're coming to the post on the 4th of March. It's $45 for dinner and the show, and they are fantastic. So if you want good entertainment that night, that's a happening place to be on that night. And it's a great bargain. Saturday night. Is it Saturday? Yeah, Saturday night. Also, we have a bike show that's coming up, and that's on the 25th of March, and that's free. We have Best of Show. We have a lot of different types of bikes, tri-bikes. We have even a lowrider bicycle competition. So that's going to be a lot of fun too. We have vendors there, and that'll be held again at the American Legion as at 124 North Ramona here in town, just west of State. And we look forward to having people out there, support the post, support the veterans, because this is going to help the veterans here in the area. Thank you.
What about March 18th,
March 18th?
the Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans event?
That is correct. Almost forgot. We do have a Welcome Home Veterans happening on the 18th of March. And this is for veterans. Are we saluting one particular veteran, or they're just for the Vietnam veterans?
It's for everyone, but it's in memory of, or it's for the Vietnam Veterans Welcome Home,
Yes,
but all veterans are invited.
all veterans are invited. It's a lot of veterans, when they came home from Vietnam, they did not get a welcome home. They did everything they could to hide the fact that they were in the service. They were spat upon, called baby killers, and it was not a good time. I came home during that time, and for the people who were actually they were in the paddies fighting, and a couple of days later, they're walking the streets of Hemet. And it's just the shock, the reacclimation, the fact that nobody liked the veterans as they came home. This is a chance for us to give an appreciation to them and a welcome home, well-deserved. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Okay. We will now move to presentations. Steve? City of Hemet, California proclamation. National Black History Month. Whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas Black History Month grew out of the establishment in 1926 of Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And as whereas the observance of Black History Month allows us an opportunity to recognize the heroes of African American history, such as Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, and many more. And whereas Black History Month provides a time for all Americans to remember the struggles of African Americans for freedom and equal opportunity, and whereas the city of Hemet Council celebrates the accomplishments of African American past, present, and future. Now therefore, Joe Males, Mayor of Hemet, along with Hemet City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2023 as National Black History Month, and encourage all residents to join in celebrating the diversity and character of our community, and to continue to work towards the ideals of equality, freedom, opportunity that our country represents. Presented February 14, 2023. Thank you. Okay, so okay, next we're going to move to receive and file. Are there any questions regarding the City of Hemet warrant registers of the investment report? If not, we will receive and file both. Any? Okay. All consent calendar items will be acted upon simultaneously unless requested by an individual council member for separate consideration. Are there any members of the council that would like to pull any consent items for separate consideration?
Yes, I'd like to pull the minutes. 16A.
That was 16A?
16A.
Anyone else? Can I have a motion to approve the items or remaining items and a second?
Move to approve the rest of the items.
I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. Council, please cast your votes. That motion passes 5-0 to approve the consent calendar with the removal of item 16A for separate consideration.
Yes. And I know the city clerk sent out a memo that there was a correction on one of the items, 17D or something. There was a typo on that one. I'd also like to make a correction on it, on the item for the delegate and alternate for SCAG. The minutes reflect that it is me as the delegate and Joe Males as the alternate. And going back to the video, it's Malcolm. So Malcolm, you're it, and it's got to be in writing.
We'll make those corrections to the minutes
Thank
as
you.
amended.
And with those corrections, I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a-
second it.
I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Councilmember Peterson. Council, please cast your votes. That motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to our first discussion item. May we have a report from staff, please?
I do have a presentation. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Veronica Allen, Management Analyst for the City Manager's Office. This is a short presentation on the resolution to approve the Year 2 and Year 3 service agreement for the eCivis Grant Management Software System. The eCivis Grant Management Software System supports the organizational effectiveness objective to operate in a financially sustainable manner in the strategic plan. The eCivis Grant Management Software System is a fully integrated cloud-based system that propels the full grants management lifecycle. Some features of the eCivis Grant Management System software are it provides grant funding opportunities. It also has a grant funding library that helps write grants, tracks projects, goals, tasks, budgets, and documents, allocate and track funding sources. It has a subrecipient management, which allows applicants to apply for grant funding from the city, centralize and streamline application intake, and keep subrecipients on track with their projects. eCivis has the ability to provide grant funding notifications. Notifications can be set on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. The system can do searches for specific category of equipment, service, or activity. It will provide immediate search results. The system can do continual search until a grant is found or the search parameter is closed. When grant was applied for and awarded from a weekly eCivis grant notification, eCivis is a handy tool to receive automated grant funding notifications. The city does have several resources available to assist with grant funding searches. We have the 2 grant writing consultants who provide grant updates. The city receives the WRCOG grant summary on a monthly basis. There are at least 5 email notification services that provide grant funding opportunity notices. They're the Grant Management Associates, California Consulting, and direct emails from state agencies such as the Office of Grants and Local Services for state parks funding, Federal Transit Administration, FEMA, and Department of Justice. The mayor did ask about California Consulting, and the city can contract with this company. They do provide the same services that the 2 contracted grant writing companies provide right now. At the December 13th, 2022 council meeting, Councilmember Meyer asked about what funding source is available for the grant management system after ARPA is fully expended. Staff checked with the city's HUD representative, and a grant management system is an eligible expense or eligible purchase using CDBG funding, and per HUD is a smart investment. The expense would fall under the administration category in CDBG. Administration covers staff costs and contracts, and due to the 20% cap for administration, some adjustments would need to be made in this category to cover the cost for the system. And any revisions to the CDBG projects will need to be included in the annual action plan. As time gets closer to the end of the Year 3 contract in 2024, staff will discuss the change with the city manager on whether to proceed with continuation of the eCivis service agreement. If approval is given to keep the system at the end of 2024, staff will return to council with a service agreement for approval that can be funded by CDBG. Tonight, staff is requesting council approve the resolution for the eCivis grant management software system for Year 2 and Year 3 for a total of $107,600 or $53,800 each year, funded by ARPA, state and local fiscal recovery funds. This concludes the presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Veronica. Appreciate it. Is there any reason why we have to approve this tonight? And my reasoning is we have a new city manager coming on board on the 21st. And I'd really like some additional information on this as to not only his input on eCivis, and I know it's a good program, and I know different cities and agencies that use this software. But I'd also like to know how many of our department heads will use this, or if they are currently using other sources, and whether or not, just to see some type of a comparison, a cost comparison on what we're currently doing. I do know PD uses a different firm, and I don't know about Public Works and Fire, but I think they do. And I think we need to have an overall look at what department heads are currently using, how economic they are, as opposed to this one. And I'd really like to have the new city manager's input on it. That's it.
I agree with what Linda says. I think this is a good thing to hold off on right now. And my major concern is that this was implemented by the city council on January 11th of last year. And when this was brought up in a prior meeting, we asked how many grants were received through this program, and the answer was 0. So my question is, why are we paying for something that we're not utilizing and getting money and grants from, and we want to approve it for 2 more years? I don't agree with that.
And I have the same concern as Linda as far as having the new city manager, and then the same with what Jackie said. I know that we've talked about this many times, but we need to see hard numbers and what comes to fruition out of this. I think that when originally the grant programs were approved and set up in the city, the council was under different premise of actually what was going on and what they were told. So it was, I don't know, I think we need to just have some clarity on that. And it seems that our new city manager is very apprised of grants and et cetera. So he may have a process that he likes to use or something. So we need to make sure that we're sensitive to that. We don't want to strap him with something that
Malcolm?
costs a lot.
I do concur with all the council members. I believe it's not being utilized properly to its full potential. I know we have multiple licenses now, and we have no control on who's, if anyone's even writing grants to this software. So I'm in complete, I'm sorry? Thank you. Agreement with the council members here. I just don't see it being used properly. And have you had training? We have training on it?
Yeah, each department has a grant lead, and they have the access or license to use eCivis, and they have all had training.
Okay. But it's not being used though. It doesn't seem, how many grants have we got through this software?
One applied for, and that one was awarded to the fire department.
The what?
Fire department?
Oh, the fire department applied. Oh, so they do use this software.
Yes.
Can I get someone from the fire department to tell me if they feel that we should approve this? I'm not.
No, I agree with you. I'd like to see a comprehensive report from what all the department heads are using and what they have been using.
Definitely.
And then come back and the cost effectiveness of that versus going with eCivis. And I know it's a good program. And like I said, I know different agencies and cities that use it and utilize it extremely well and get lots and lots of money and grant funding, which is so important. And yes, we need to do that, but we just need to be smart and make sure we're not using 4 or 5 different avenues.
Yeah.
And it's costing us more money in the long run than it is what we're receiving in grant funding.
Okay. Is there anything, Veronica, you want to add to this or?
No.
No. Chief?
Now, I'll make sure I pass along the direction from council to the staff.
We can just pull this from the agenda, continue it to a later time.
Let's table it. Yeah. Okay.
If you're looking for a recommended motion, I would recommend that you continue it to a date uncertain to be brought back by the city manager once that report is completed.
I'll make that motion to continue it to a date uncertain. I'll second that.
Okay.
Motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Councilmember Meyer. Council, please cast your votes. That motion passes 5-0 to continue the item to a date uncertain.
On this one? Okay, may we receive a report from staff on this item, please?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the council, Noah Rao, Public Works Director, City Engineer. I have a difficult decision for you all this evening regarding the Hemet Valley Bikeway. The project consists of providing Class 2 and Class 3 bike lanes from Chambers to Esplanade along Palm Avenue and Gilbert Street. The project was awarded Active Transportation Program federal funding from the Cycle 3 back in fiscal year 17-18. You can see kind of a map of the proposed bike lanes there. Big items of the project consist of a 2-inch grind and overlay of the pavement on Palm Avenue from Whittier to Florida. There are 15 bike repair stations installed in various locations throughout, 5 bike locker amenities. There's a lot of concrete work in the replacement of curb and gutter, cross gutter, sidewalk, curb extensions, and driveways. There's a proposed parking lot on State Street just south of Chambers, and there's a lot of signing and striping as part of the project. All right, let's get right to the numbers. Since 2018, when the grant was applied for, the city has invested approximately $240,000 into the project. Project construction needs to be awarded by February 28th to meet the grant requirements and the deadlines, or it will lose its funding. Of course, the bids came in much higher than the costs were estimated in 2018. The project needs $1,581,616.60 appropriated in order to proceed. I've thrown out an option to use ARPA funds that have been appropriated to a citywide roadway improvement project as a possible way to fund this project if the council decides to push it forward. However, we all know that paving, rehab, and roadway improvements are in high demand in this city. There's one other non-infrastructure portion that's not on the slides here that I need to bring up. The city solicited proposals for the public outreach portion, which is the non-infrastructure portion. We did receive one proposal. However, they pulled out, withdrew their proposal last week. So that's another, it was $100,000 grant separately from the construction for that portion, but it would also expire if we can't award it to someone at the end of the month. And that was to do lots of training, bicycle safety training at some of the schools and so on. We tried to solicit proposals. I believe it was twice. And so the first time we got no proposals, and the second one we got the one, and it was, so the city could still do that on its own funds, but that I just needed to share that. And the decision supports these 3 strategic plan goals. And that concludes my presentation. I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor, for discussion and questions.
Anyone have anything to say on this? I sure do.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, to me, it seems like an awful lot of money for Hemet and how many people I see using bikes in the city. I don't think we have a lot of commuter bicycle people in the city. I don't think we have a lot of recreational people in the city. And I know one of the biggest complaints in the city is our roads. And I would rather see the money go towards making our streets more travelable than having a bike lane. And it just, you know, we lose a little money in it, but I think in the long run, the public would be happier with better roads than a bike lane that is not used that often.
Next.
You know, I don't disagree with that. However, this is one of those times when there's a however. This has been on the books for a long time. And I remember the public outreach when we did it back in whenever it was 2017, 2018. And the big plan on this was, and I think still is to have a bikeway that actually goes from the college down to Dominagoni and eventually to the beach. All the cities from here downstream on the Santa Ana River and on Salt Creek Channel areas, they're all getting grant funding to do this. If we turn this back, we get dinged really, really, really hard from the feds, from the state, from RCTC, from SCAG, from all of these agencies that are piling up their grant funding to pay for things like this, to get people out of their cars. And I agree, we don't have a big commuter population on bicycles or walking or any of that. And it is a lot of money. The only one street we could get repaved is Palm.
Whittier to
Can you slurry seal the rest of them? I mean, something's got to happen here. But I just see some real negative fallout from higher up agencies when we turn back a $2 million grant.
And when we turn it back, do they kind of snub us on the next grant?
They just say, you guys aren't interesting, go away.
Yeah.
And that really is the biggest thing. Although I do see people out on the bike paths down at Dominagoni. And most of the time, the people that were involved in this back when we were doing the outreach to the public, their comment was, you can't ride on Florida, so we have to ride someplace else. And what's one of the quietest streets in town? And it was like, well, Palm's kind of quiet because it goes through Sierra Dawn. And I went, oh, okay. But, you know, it's supposed to go to Chambers. It's supposed to have an area there and then eventually, you know, connect down to Dominagoni and continue the Salt Creek thing all the way over. So it's a big project, but it's all grant funding.
Other than, I see what you're talking about and them denying us grants in the future.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that people play that game, but I understand that happens. But other than ARPA funds, is there any other funds that we can use, like Measure A, to take the place of the ARPA funds or other?
There are other CIP projects that are Measure A dedicated to roadways. One that I can think of would be CIP 5755. I believe there's like 2.5 million of Measure A dedicated to that right now.
And if we don't allocate the extra money, can we reduce the scope of the project? Does it have to stay eyes that we're looking at here?
Right. If the scope is reduced, it would also reduce the funding proportionally.
Now here's the problem I see. 15 bike repair and comfort stations. Can we rename that to 15 homeless bedding stations? Because that's who's going to be there at these stations. I looked at the picture and that's perfect for them to take over and sleep on these benches and use it as their housing area.
I see that problem too, and it is a requirement of the grant.
Problem is with ARPA. That's my problem. Using funds from ARPA. We can find funds from some other funding agency that I would be a go on it. But using ARPA funds, I'm against.
Okay, as I said, there is the other CIP that we could take money from, being 5755.
But then that takes away from probably the work on the roads that we're going to do. And
anything we do is going to take away from somewhere else.
before we need a bike lane.
Is that CIP you're referring to, is that ATP money through Measure A or street money through Measure A?
That's street money.
It is street money. It's not an ATP grant.
Right.
Okay.
I do not want to take away from our street funds because we need repairs on our streets. That should be a priority for us, is repairing these streets because they're bad.
Will the whole Palm be redone?
The entire width from Whittier to Florida. So it's
Like the
a good
actual
stretch.
street?
the street. Yeah. So
And
it would
with
get
the
a
bike
2-inch
lane?
grind and overlay. So
What was that?
yeah, as part of this project, Palm would get a 2-inch grind and overlay from Whittier all the way to Florida. It's a decent stretch, but not nearly, obviously, the whole proposed project there.
So the street is getting repaired.
Yeah, that one, just
That one,
Palm.
this Palm. That's it.
But there is one.
Raggedy.
And then all the, okay, I'm thinking Palm to Whittier? Florida to
It's
Whittier?
Palm Avenue from Whittier to Florida.
I'm visualizing,
Mm.
and right there at
Mile
Florida, it's
stretch.
really bad. I know it's bad. Ah, you know, we should be like RCA. You know, they want that contiguous property. So yeah, I mean, if we fix one part of the street, we should fix it all. I mean, RCA takes all the property.
Is this a shovel-ready project?
Yes, I mean, it's already been out
So
for
we can-
bids. We have construction bids. That's what the numbers we're looking at now. And we're just,
Oh.
So if we said yes to this tonight, hypothetically, right? Is it possible to use eCivis to find some more funding for it?
I mean, this is already grant funded and to the max.
No, but I mean,
extent.
more money.
Well, no, well, you're saying it's grant funded to a certain point. You want 1.5 million or something from ARPA.
Right.
So it's not completely funded.
Oh, no, it
Which is
definitely
grant
fell
money.
short.
Yeah, well, they want to take from the grant. Now, is that 1.5 million from ARPA coming from what we have in that 3.5 that we haven't spent yet, or is it
No, this is, there was already 1 million appropriated to a citywide street
already
project.
appropriated?
Right.
Okay, so it's not coming out of what we have, the 3.
Not the left. Yeah, not what's left.
Whittier to Florida is half of a mile.
What's that?
Whittier to Florida is half of a mile.
Half of,
It's about a mile, isn't it?
close to a mile. Yeah.
Mile. We clean. Rotary cleans that stretch.
Sure, to Florida is 3 no, it's 3/4 of a mile.
I don't know. I hear everybody's concern, but it kind of makes a little sense because we can get Palm isn't in like too bad of a shape like Acacia, right? There are parts of Acacia that is terrible, and then there's these other streets that are terrible.
Palm is.
If you take 2 inches off Palm, we can like keep it from getting worse than, you know what I mean? And at $1.2 million for a mile to rehab a street, I think we're still fixing the streets.
They're still fixing a street.
Because the way you guys are talking about it is making it sound like they're only working on the sidewalk.
No, not
No, it's
sidewalk.
resurfacing.
No, this is a bike lane on the street. But my concern too is the 15 repair and comfort stations. You know, it's gonna be a homeless housing right there. We found our housing.
Can you put those pigeon spikes on it?
What was that?
Yeah. Can you?
No, then people.
There has to be some kind of
Current.
an option for like a deterrent. What's that? Like a environmental design kind of deterrent?
I'm sure, I mean, I know there's options for certain like benches to have them so that, you know, they're separated in the middle, and I'm not really sure on, you know, that the entire package for those, how we would deter, but
That's part of it. You can't lay down on them. You can't recline. You can't do any of those things. So. Okay.
Go ahead.
I have another comment to make. The other thing that has really bothered me about this project is the choice of streets. I walk all over this town and my family rides their bikes all over town. And we pick some real strange roads to path people through on this particular path. And I don't know, I mean, maybe it's not an option to change, but I definitely see the point of the other council members, because the streets that I drive on in this town, my entire tire fits inside of the pothole. And the man that was here that said 3 years is a short amount of time. And I hate to tell him that, but the potholes that I've reported are huge and have been here for years. So it is very difficult. And I hate the whole option with, I'm going to send that flying. The whole option with turning a grant back, I know is terrible. And I would never want to be a part of something like that. But I feel like if a priority is a priority, we've got to do something about the streets in this town. I don't know. And I don't know if Palm is enough of a fix to satisfy people. Yeah. It's a start. And like I said, we questioned several routes when this went out to the public a few years ago, and had groups of people riding their bicycles on different routes in town. And basically it was public input that put the route where it is, which I thought was kind of surprising on some of them, but you know, there it was. So.
Okay. So
Okay, well,
we-
just to get it going,
Uh,
I'll make a motion to approve.
You didn't let me ask.
Oh. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve. I
'Cause-
see legal and city manager conferring. Are you talking about us? Yeah. Okay.
What was the question?
I just made the motion to approve when you guys were like this, and I was just going,
geez.
did you have a comment to make on,
No, we were skipping ahead to the
Oh.
next item.
we're going
We're
home?
going back to the
Yeah.
stuff.
I'm gonna second Linda.
I have a motion by Councilmember Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal. Council, please cast your votes. It's to approve the resolution. That motion passes 3-2. Mayor Males voting no, and Councilmember Meyer voting no.
No, Myers, okay. Meyer, yes. Sorry. It's the line.
Can I make a comment to staff on this?
Sure.
Find more money. Okay,
Keep looking, yeah.
okay.
Thank you, Noah. We're gonna go backwards here, if you don't mind. Is that okay with the attorney?
It's your meeting, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. There it is. I just want to go back to the proclamation that Ari Williams was not present, and his wife, Mrs. Williams. Can you step up, please? I'm not going to read the proclamation over again, but I am going to say a few things here that I'm very proud of. Our Legion was a legion where blacks weren't allowed to be in it at one point. Mexicans weren't allowed to be in it at one point. So we've changed so much in our society, and I'm so proud of it. And I'm so proud where we're at now. discrimination in this country is bad, and we've made a lot of leaps for the good, and I'm happy with that. We are more diversified than we have ever been in our Legion. We have happiness there. Everyone loves each other. Everybody works together. We're profitable. We have events almost every month. Sometimes we have 3 or 4 events, but we're there. Staff Sergeant Ari Williams is a volunteer, and he volunteers just about everything that we do. He's also on our honor team. And Staff Sergeant Ari Williams, born Ari Williams Jr. on October 3rd, 1968 in Los Angeles, California, joined in the military in 1989, served in the United States Army as an infantryman for 9 years and 8 months, also becoming an airborne assault ranger. He served 2 tours in Korea during the DMZ era, also served during the Gulf War and Iraq Freedom War, and did 2 tours in Iraq, correct? His accomplishments are as follows. During his service, he became a drill instructor, and that's hard, let me tell you, and recruiter for the United States Army. There's a list of accomplishments that are that he has that he just didn't go into, but he's an honor guard now. He was actually an honor guard under former President Bill Clinton in 1994, receiving the United Nations command flag. He also received the silver dollar coin as well. He received accommodations medals 5 times, National Service Defense Medal, and 2 overseas service ribbons. His EIB and CIB and sniper training and many more awards not mentioned. His career has been an honorable career, and he is now at the American Legion Post 53 as also on the honor team, where he attends Riverside National Cemetery every first Wednesday of the month to give honor. I'm sorry? Yeah, and every 5th Thursday of the month to give honors to those who are no longer with us and who have served their country. Ari Williams, I want you to receive this proclamation, the National Black History Month. And I'm not going to read it again because I'm a terrible reader, but I want you to have this in honor of all your service. And I thank you for what you do at the American Legion and what you've done for our country. Thank you, sir. Oh, I have no idea where I'm at now. Now we will return to where we're supposed to be. 18, okay. We'll now move on to city council and staff reports. Councilmember Krupa.
Hey, the library meeting is this Friday. Open access is alive and well. You just have to check in with your library card, and you can access the library for 2 hours before they actually open in the morning. So I want everybody to do that. Airport Land Use Commission, I'm trying to think of the term that is used, but at the last meeting, 2 different developments came up. Both of them in Hemet. One was a drive-through restaurant on southwest corner of Wentworth and Sanderson, I think it is, or on Tanya and Sanderson. It's in that area anyway. And both of the developments were considered, and I'm not going to use the right word, but compliant with the general plan of the airport.
Compatible.
That's the word. And so it's good. And there'll be any type of development that comes in that area, whether, straight line from landing and takeoffs, all anything in those areas have to go to airport land use, and then they have to rule on height, type of building, how many people per square foot, all of that good stuff. But anyway, those two developments were both approved by airport land use. League of California Cities, we had the executive committee meeting last night, and Carolyn Coleman, who is the CEO and director in Sacramento, was at the meeting, as was Ali Taj, who is the president of the league this year, and Bismarck Pando, who is one of our lobbyists. A lot of good stuff came out and a lot of scary things, because I would imagine you have all received your letter from the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act. And we need to research that and really be aware of it, because it's not what it sounds like. It's taking away local control on any type of fee regulation and taxation on a local level. It would affect the city of Hemet if this is passed by the voters in 2024, and it would take away the sunset on Measure H, and we would have to go back for another vote on it. So it's very harmful. It's leaving taxation more in Sacramento's hands than it is in ours, even though it's big business that is behind this. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense, but we all need to be aware of it. And I'm sure it's going to come back to us possibly in the form of asking the city to do a resolution opposing this initiative, because it has qualified for the 2024 ballot. The other two things, let's see, where am I on here? Division training, which is for all new council members and also for older council members, seasoned council members, will be on March 3rd in Beaumont. The exact spot in Beaumont has not been established yet, but it will be from 8 to noon. And this is an opportunity for newly elected council members to hear from regional agencies that we sit on boards of as a introductory of what they do. So RCA, RCTC, RTA, WRCOG, airport land use, all of these entities will be there with an explanation of what they do and why we should be involved in everything that they do. And then the May division meeting, March division meeting, which is then March 13th, will be in Cathedral City. Riverside County Transportation Commission, we had our annual planning retreat last weekend, and it took a different format than it usually does, because we spend half of one day and 3/4 of another day listening to speakers on the future of transportation and land management, and usually just the woes of transportation and how we're not going to build our way out of all of our congestion, especially in Southern California. This one was a little bit on electric vehicles and smart planning and traffic merging control devices on freeways to eliminate some of the gridlock. But then we also had a very in-depth conversation about the future of travel in California. How do we create enough roads and less cars to ensure that people get to where they're going, and yet we have RHNA numbers that tell all of us how many thousand homes we have to build, even though we don't have the work of the ability to provide jobs to keep people home. The state has put down all the vehicle miles traveled for new developments, and yet one part of government is not talking to the other part. So how do we do this? We had real good conversation on mass transit, on trains, on buses, but I also brought up, because we were talking about pinch points in traffic, in that we build a section of a road to accommodate traffic, but we build it in sections. So this section is great, like coming from Temecula to the Dominigoni, it's anywhere from 4 to 6 lanes all the way up. Then you go on to Warren Road, 2 lanes. Guess what? Pinch point. Sanderson, 4 lanes, pinch point. You get to Lamb Canyon, you're going up. So I brought up the subject. I said, what can we do about the realignment of Highway 79? It's a big ask for money because right now it's to Caltrans standards. And the last we actually did anything with it was about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was $1.4 billion to go the 10 miles through the valley. So there was concurrence to ask staff to go back and look at it and see if maybe it can be downsized in quality and not up to Caltrans standards of pouring concrete, because we all know how expensive concrete is, and maybe making it a continuation of what Winchester Road is, which is now basically a regional arterial. So there's going to be some good things coming up with RCTC in the future, and a relook at several of the projects that we have going on. The Mid-County is going to keep going, making it safer. Gilman Springs is going to be looked at. So we have a lot of things in this valley that are finally going to get attention, because quite honestly, we have been ignored for most of the years that Measure A has been around, and we do more than our fair share. So that was exciting. It was gratifying to finally get some attention on it. I have been appointed to the ad hoc committee to look at projects and funding. So we'll be reaching out with all of your help also to all of our congressmen in this area, which is Calvert and Roth and Takano and Ruiz and all of them in this area. That it's San Diego traffic that impacts our valley also. So I think there's a lot of people, if you've got personal connections with any of the representatives, federal and state in this area, we need to bring them all to the table and just say, hey, it's time. We need it done here. Riverside Transit Agency, the Go Micro on-demand service has rolled out in the valley, getting some of the bugs out. I hear a lot of good things, but I also hear a lot of issues on, well, I used to be able to get from here to there, but now I can't. So I will just say to those people who are having a problem, please contact us, because we want to make Go Micro a success. It is a trial, but we want to be able to get our people to where they want to go. And let's see, Watermaster, we have a meeting coming up on February 27th. Planning Commission, I didn't get to attend, and I don't know what they did, and I don't see anybody from planning here. There were 2 items on. One was the specific plan for Ramona Creek, and the other one was some zone changes, and I haven't listened to the video, so I have no idea what they did. And that's about it.
I guess I'm next. I attended the infrastructure committee the last Monday of January, and some of the highlights they said were the sidewalks and the ADA ramps should be finished mid-February, which it is now. So I'm hoping that they have wrapped that up or are very near. They did a lot of sidewalk repair in Seven Hills. They had 551 sidewalk repairs that they did in that one development alone. And the Simpson Center parking lot improvement project went out for bids, and there are 9 bids received by January 26th. So we will be getting an update on that in the near future. The Ramona Bowl meeting was interesting once again. And I want to encourage everybody to attend the Glass Menagerie, which the Hillside Players Theater will be hosting. It's on March 4th, and it will benefit the Ramona pageant this year. And there will be refreshments and raffle prizes, and the cost is $25. And there are 98 seats in this theater. It's a nice little intimate theater, and we want to fill it up. So please get your tickets for the Glass Menagerie at the Hillside Players Theater. And along with that, they are checking on the lease for that property and ground improvements around the theater. They want to spruce it up a little bit, so they were looking at that. So, and you'll be seeing lots of advertising for the 100th anniversary of the Ramona pageant. And they hope to have yard signs, banners, billboard. And I was just told today that a couple from overseas gifted an amazing double-sided billboard on the I-10 near Banning. And there was a picture of it and it looks fabulous. Has the dates of the play on it. It's beautiful. And it was gifted. I'm sure it was a very nice donations. There are several appliances that need work there, including a walk-in freezer and swamp cooler that they're working on. And we hope to get those 100%. And they also are looking for someone, hopefully a good business that would donate water bottle donations for the volunteers that work. And they're going to have a lot of volunteers this year and it's going to be fabulous. So we hope that you all go. And I attended the my first Riverside County Habitat Conservation Agency, known as RCHCA. And I learned more about Stevens kangaroo rat. And it was interesting. I like nature, so this is a good committee for me. So they are developing an in-house database solution known as ECOS, which will modernize and improve how data is collected, analyzed, and reported. They've been working on this for many years now, and it was almost extinct. And I guess they're thriving everywhere, and they've collected all this data, and now they just need to know how to properly analyze it and use it. So that's what they'll be doing. And there's also a invasive plant species, and it's known as stinknet. And the common name is globe chamomile. And it is prevalent in Lake Matthews, Estelle Mountain Reserve. And they are working on eradicating that so it doesn't take over. And that was pretty interesting, I thought. And then one important part of business was they owned some surplus land and they are selling it to another entity and they made a nice profit on it. So it was just in excess land along a creek bed, I believe. And that'll help their funding. And it was just sitting there not doing anything. And an adjacent development wanted it. So they bought it from us. So that's good. And then the Western Riverside Council of Governments, WRCOG, we spent a lot of time talking about how they wanted to conduct business meetings because of now the end of the pandemic meeting protocol is coming to an end this month. And we talked about a lot of things back and forth and what other committees under them were doing. And we finally decided that we will have the meetings in person with a few exceptions, and they still want the ability for people to view and call in. So that's what we're going to do for those meetings. And then there is a nomination open now for the Community Service Award for WRCOG. And I think we had 2 people from Hemet get that last year. I know at least one. So that's open, and the deadline on that is Friday, March 3rd. And they are limiting the nomination letter this year to 200 words. Because last year they had somebody that wanted to submit one with 5 pages, and then somebody had 1, and they said, well, let's keep it standardized. So they said 200 words, and then you can submit some other supporting documents if you want. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, I have a different type of announcement to make. Since our governor seems to fail to communicate to our city, I have an announcement from his office. He signed into law a measure that decriminalizes jaywalking. And just so everyone knows, in our city, we lose many people to jaywalking every year. I teach my kids not to play in the street and my dogs not to play in the street because they'll die. I don't know why humans don't deserve the same teaching, but Assembly Bill 2147, it lets pedestrians cross the street outside of an intersection when it is safe to do so. It also limits when officers can stop a pedestrian from jaywalking to situations where there is an immediate danger of a collision. So if there's not an immediate danger of a collision, they're allowed to do it. So when you're driving down the streets of Hemet, please pay attention because it is no longer illegal apparently to jaywalk. And I'm not sure why our pedestrians are not protected, but it is a shame that they're not. And I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. He seems to press down on us whenever he wants to, and I plan on pressing right back. So thank you, Governor Newsom.
I don't have anything to report because my community action meeting is Thursday. And so I'll tell you guys what's up next meeting.
Okay, I just have a few things here. The skate park, last I heard, we had 3 proposals, and I haven't heard anything lately on that. So League of California Cities, Care Court implementation. After months of negotiations, Cal Cities won critical amendments to help ensure an effective rollout of the Community Assistance Recovery and Empowerment Court program called Care Court. I think this is what you discussed at one point, isn't it, Chief?
Yes, this was something that was signed by Governor Newsom in early November.
Okay, and
It's 7 counties involved with Care Court. We were chosen as one of the counties. So these 7 counties are basically starting from the ground up Care Court, all the nuts and bolts. And by 2027, all counties in California have to be involved in Care Court.
okay. Now, when does that go into effect?
Oh,
For our county?
For our county, it goes into effect October 23 of 2023.
Oh, okay, so
So
that
this
long. I
upcoming
thought
year.
it was just around the
So
corner. So,
it's a lot of a lot of different departments, the courts, DA's office, county council, different cities. The city of Hemet is on an ad hoc committee with 2 other cities that we attend. It's good to know what's coming to us. We also have other different entities involved on different ad hoc committees regarding Care Court. But it will come into effect. This is from the ground up. They have to decide where the courthouses will be, how we're gonna provide these services. Is it gonna be via Zoom? Because some of these folks that we deal with, they have large items, animals and things like that. We have to figure out how we're gonna accommodate those things. So it's pretty interesting, and I think there's a lot of different entities thinking outside the box to make sure that this could come to fruition. So, but it's at the very beginning stages,
right.
and a lot of people sitting.
This should help us though, bring down the irate or the crazies out there or.
Well, this is going to provide the services that we believe some individuals need. They'll be sent to these programs, which are up to a year long, that can be extended, that they have to complete these programs. But all the nuts and bolts is how do you make that happen?
Right.
And how do we, it's going to be thinking out of the box, because you're going to have people that are more commonly involved in being in the courthouse, being out in the street to make that contact with these individuals. So it's going to be having counsel out there in the street, talking to these individuals, being prepared to do a Zoom link with a judge at the court at certain times, finding these individuals. So there's a lot of different things that are involved. So the good thing that I see is we're one of the 7 counties that are going to lay the foundation. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of trial and error. So, but a lot of things are being discussed, and I think one of the council members said time flies, and it really does, because they only have until October.
Yeah.
It'll be here before you know it. So it has to be up and running. There's funding discussed that the state is providing, but there's never really any clear direction of what that funding is going to be, how much is going to be paid, because you're talking about a lot of different entities involved. And we're going to be held accountable to provide that, and everything costs money. So,
Wow.
but it's a step in in the right direction and trying.
Sounds like it. It does.
Yeah.
I read it in detail and it does sound like it's may work. So,
Yeah, I'm just, I'm glad that our city's involved to know what's gonna happen in our city.
yeah.
There's two other cities. I've attended all the care court, Zoom meetings, so, we're involved. I've notified the new city manager. He's aware.
Okay.
He wants to make sure we stay involved as well.
All right. Thank you, sir. Western Community Energy, we all know that went debunked, or it no longer exists, and everyone else is on Southern California Edison now. Bills are doubled and tripled, but welcome to California. Planning Commission met on legislative updates on Housing Bill AB 2011, Affordable Housing and High Road Jobs Acts of 2022, and the Housing Accountability Act of SB 167, which prohibits a local agency from disapproving or conditioning approval in a manner that renders infeasible a housing development project for very low or moderate income households on energy shelters unless the local agency makes specified written findings based upon substantial evidence in the record. And Assembly Bill AB 2234, Planning and Zoning, Housing, can't even pronounce that word. What is that word? Boston. Nope. Hold on. Yeah, we'll get the second word, phase permits. AB 2097 in hopes of driving housing prices down and spurring redevelopment of older commercial spaces. Assembly Bill 2097 prohibits cities throughout California from enforcing minimum parking spaces if the project is located near transit. And the Educational Employee Housing AB 2295. This bill would deem a housing development project an allowable use on any real property owned by a local educational agency. And that's all I have. Chief?
Host entitlement.
Oh, thank you.
Mayor, all I have to report is the 21st. Remember, it's swearing in ceremony for the new city manager. So that's next Tuesday. 9 a.m.
9.
at the library.
Great. We'll see you there, Chief. No, you won't. Okay, well. Oh no, we got the ad hoc committees. Do we have any ad hoc committee reports? Anyone? No? Okay. Well, I know that Males and Peterson met on the Veterans Memorial ad hoc, and we're going to get back to you when we get some ideas. So we did meet. Okay. Do any members of the city council have any requests for future agenda items?
I'd like to discuss a couple of these that have been on here for a while. The first one was the broadcasting of city council meetings. And I guess this has been on there forever. And there was talk about moving the council chambers and getting new equipment and whatever. But I think you updated what you have now and it's working. So do we really need that on our agenda anymore?
I don't think so. What do you think, city manager?
I think this is probably a good time to revisit these. I mean, you're going to have the new city manager on board. Some of these things we did accomplish. on the future agenda items and kind services. I think that was, taking care of our last council meeting.
Yeah.
So if you want to go down each one, and then if there's anything new that, you feel is pressing that we should bring forward to the new city manager, I think that'll be a good idea.
Okay.
Well, I think we need to delete number 1 if you're in agreement.
We don't have to have a vote on that, do we? We do have to have a vote.
I would recommend that you vote to remove things from the list.
Do you want
Vote
to,
to add them.
I make a motion that we delete number 1, broadcasting of city council meetings.
along with 6?
That we're gonna go down.
Oh, down the line, okay. I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Peterson, second by Mayor Mills. Council, please cast your votes. Councilmember Meyer.
I am still thinking about it because it is on here because of a vote of the majority of council. And so I feel like there's a reason that we put it on here and it hasn't been addressed yet. I don't know.
I thought there was a problem with the equipment before, and I thought more was purchased and that you were somewhat happy with the way it's going now. This was before my time, so I'm not sure.
And I think some of it has to do with not just the city council meetings, but some of the things that we added on here were because of other council or other meetings. Our previous city manager wasn't so keen on having other meetings. And so like if someone misses the planning commission, it's nice to be able to look back at it. And so we have meetings like that that aren't always recorded, like that DRC the other day.
Yeah.
Haha.
That was a fiasco.
Yes.
Yeah, because and infrastructure, I believe, is coming back into this building.
They're coming here. That'll be
And
recorded.
quite honestly, library trustees should be either
Right.
recorded over there, which is easier to do it here.
And I think that the reason this is on here is because we have to make it a policy, because the last one wanted to have a policy to do it. Otherwise he wouldn't do it.
That-
It was strange.
Could we just do that? I'm looking at legal.
Can you just create a policy for the broadcasting of city meetings?
Well, just say that all city meetings need to be done here, at least with the capability, so that people can listen to them.
Right.
I mean, we have quite a few that need public input, as
And then that would
she
take
said
care
with
of it.
DRC the other day. Yeah, that was
So-
an important meeting.
So yes, the council does have the authority to determine the regular time, place, manner of meetings of the boards and commissions of the city.
Can you
Um,
whip something up for the next meeting? Yeah, boom, like that. Snap your fingers.
But what else would we?
Change
The
the,
council would like to direct me to do that.
Is that what we want to do?
I think it would remove it, but then it would address the issue for sure, because and was some of this broadcasting like on the public channel? I think that it was on because of that too.
I think what it was, and I'm not 100% sure, but this could have been put on here pre-COVID.
Mhm.
And COVID has, I mean, we do broadcast and we do Zoom and we do all of those things. And I think at the time we were looking at it that could we do this, but we didn't have space in this building.
Mhm.
So what do we do for increased space, and where's a city building that fits all of us? So I think there was like 2 or 3 different points that we had talked about at that
And
time.
was some of this public access channel?
I think it was.
And there's no plan for that now. And so maybe,
And I don't know how you broadcast live on public access.
well, and I don't even know if it would need to be live, but I think it's the
Yeah.
point of just getting information out. They're not broadcast on there except like
Yeah.
100-year-old meetings.
And I'd like to add that IT manager Underwood would probably have some insight as well, because I believe it has to do with the broadcasting and the cable
Mhm.
system that needs to be upgraded. To my understanding, that's part of the discussion, but he would better be able to elaborate on that discussion.
So I think there's a lot of things that are wrapped up into this little bullet point, but we just need to make sure we address them all. We address them all. So
Yeah, it's not my full expertise, but
Yeah.
I wanted to add that tidbit. by
maybe we
Scott.
should leave it on here and until we can resolve the questions that we all have so far.
You know, perhaps you could have an open-ended discussion about this item in the future. It sounds like there's a lot of concern. I mean, obviously, we also got the public comment about closed captioning as
Mhm.
part of the broadcast.
Exactly.
And so I think similar to the mobile home rent stabilization discussion where we just have a discussion.
Just
about the
have a
item
work study on it. Yeah.
and maybe that would be helpful to moving you forward on this one. Because I do think that the original, when I looked at this, the original intent with this was, I think we were broadcasting with a Nest cam and you couldn't hear what was going on.
Right.
And then obviously we've upgraded the cameras and the audio. But it sounds like there's some additional transparency the council would like to have. So I think you could just have a work.
I want to add some additional context. In talking with Scott Underwood, our IT manager, there is live captioning on the YouTube channel. So there is on that platform, we do have live captioning, but we're going to look at fixing the Zoom so that we have closed captioning.
Yeah, I think this was sitting on the agenda for a long time that we forgot exactly what we were focusing on. So it sounds like there's still a lot to do, and we'll make sure that staff takes care of that, at least have some answers to provide at the next council
And
meeting.
these are like little things we could chip away at, that for sure. So. So is there a motion on the floor? Or do we need to rescind the motion or amend it or just ignore it?
I have a motion by Councilmember Peterson. I didn't get a second, did I?
And no second?
No.
I second it.
Because there's there's more layers to it than what I was.
So we'll just rescind it with the motion, just
Okay.
like it never happened.
I think if you take no action, it remains on the list and now staff has additional direction as to what it is this actually means to this council.
And item 6 and 7, if I may, we've been doing some updates, and I appreciate Councilmember Krupa's comments on bugs. So our templates have been updated both in the agenda and minutes. And unfortunately, from 2 meetings ago, we've carried some of these items over. So items 6 and 7 should be removed from this list. And thank you to Councilmember Peterson's point out.
Okay, and can we remove 8 because we kind of dealt with that tonight?
Remove 8.
Or do I need to make a motion to remove 6, 7, and 8? Okay, I make that motion.
Second it.
Council, please cast your votes. Waiting on Councilmember Meyer. That motion passes 5-0.
Can I ask about 5? Is 5 done also, or is that?
Number 5, the first half of that can be taken off, but the second half should remain.
Yeah, Devonshire and Warren, definitely.
Okay.
I think this is something I need to check with staff. I don't know if this is a traffic study. I don't think that actually includes the solar light that we have out there, but maybe we could expand a little bit more on that. Number 5 is traffic study for intersections of Myers Street, Devonshire Avenue, and Warren Road, Devonshire Avenue.
I'm not really sure on all those streets. I know they did the Warren and Devonshire, they definitely did a study and it warranted a signal. And so the signal is in design. I know the alignment isn't very good, so they've had to look at acquiring additional right of way. So that's where that particular one is. As far as the other studies though, I'm not sure.
Solar light went up on
Okay.
Myers.
Yeah, the light part's done.
Okay. Right.
Mr. Rao, I thought you said you didn't need a traffic study for the intersection of Meyer and Devonshire. It was just the light aspect of it. Okay,
There was no study needed. That's just for the safety, and it doesn't control traffic, so there's no study.
thank you. So on this, I would just make a motion to delete the first half of that and leave Devonshire and Warren on there.
I'll second that.
Council, please cast your votes. I have a motion by Councilmember Peterson, second by Councilmember Krupa to remove the first part of item 5 off of the agenda.
So my question is, what action are we taking then with number 5?
Removing the first half.
Right, we're removing traffic study. So what will the verb be? What are we doing with Myers and Devonshire?
No, we'll keep traffic study for intersection of Warren and Devonshire.
Okay, Warren and Devonshire.
Warren Road
Okay,
and
perfect.
Devonshire. That motion passes 5-0.
And 4? No? No.
We didn't finish that.
But on there, I think until.
Agenda item number 4, I don't recall why that was put on there.
Do you know why 4 was put on there?
You could argue it was taken care of by Measure H.
Yes, and it also could be argued that council needs to, do we need to discuss that again? As far as, because I don't know that we've ever pledged what the money is going to be used for.
If the council wanted a review of the 2 resolutions, I know it's just 4703, but I think it would probably take both of them together. If you wanted further discussion about, under those resolutions, what qualifies, what doesn't qualify. Obviously, we reorganized the Department of Life Safety, things like that. You could have another workshop discussion to see where your questions are, and then we can go off and do the research.
I don't know that it's necessary because I feel like it has been covered, but I don't know. What do you think? I don't think conversation would hurt. Let me put it that way.
But if nothing changed, except it doesn't run out in 2026, why don't we just use what we had for Measure U to Measure H and what we had stipulated there?
So unless the council gives direction, these resolutions stay in effect. Maybe it doesn't even necessarily need to be something you do as a separate item. It could just be a conversation you have with staff during the budgeting process as to what items are being allocated to Measure H and which ones aren't and why.
I'm good with that.
So maybe you can take it off.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to remove number 4.
I have a motion by Councilmember Meyer,
I'll second if no one else has.
second by Mayor Mills. Council, please cast your votes. That motion passes 5-0.
And we left number 1 on, correct? Okay.
Are you ready for me to add the 10 that I have? Okay, we started with something like that.
We didn't comment on 2 and 3. If you wanted to do all of them, we skipped 2 and 3.
Well, the solar feasibility, I think we still need to keep on there because that goes to all city buildings, especially the library. Well, that is an energy hog. Oh, she left. Oh, there she is.
She knew you were going to talk.
And animal control regulations for businesses. confused on that one.
I
We-
think
we have
that
talked
was
about
one,
that.
yeah, that was one that was brought for people that were, I mean, I think in our building code or something, there were people that were keeping animals in their business
Yes.
during non-hours of operation and not complying with code enforcement as far as animal control and stuff. So I think it was along those lines.
I think so.
I remember the specific incident, but it was messy.
Yeah, we could look into that. I'm also looking into the animal control contract that we currently have, which will be expiring June 30th. So that's one on our list of priorities that we need to get done prior to the fiscal year. And the solar feasibility, there's always ways to improve our efficiency. So I think that's something we really need to look at, especially moving forward.
Again, does any members have any future agenda items you'd like to place on here other than your 10?
I do have one. I want the matter of the conceptual approval of the proposed Riverside County Recovery Center planned for State Street to be placed on the next city council agenda for a vote of reconsideration.
Natalie?
Yes, so you guys will recall, I think it was actually as part of the ARPA workshop, I think we tagged on the behavioral health facility. The city council voted to send a letter of support for that project. If the city council wanted to vote to rescind that letter of support, the city council could do that.
Okay.
So if that's, I think that's where you're going with that, council member?
I know when I was campaigning this fall, I asked a lot of residents if they knew about it. They said no. When I explained it, they were very unhappy about it. Most of them definitely did not like the location of it. And I agree, we need something done for Hemet, for people that have mental health problems and the homeless, but we do not need it in the heart of the city. And that's what we approved, was on State Street in the middle of residential and businesses. And that is not the right place for it, I feel. So I would like another vote on it and possibly find another solution for a location if we so desire that.
So I think that in order to get that information about alternative locations, we would likely need the county behavioral health to come in and give additional information to the city, because it's their project. They know what land they have available to them and not available to them. I do know that there's been some concern about the viability of that site because of water supply.
That also, yes.
So, maybe they could give a council update on the status of the project, where they're at. They can answer some questions you have, and then the council can decide if it wants to take action on that letter. So, I mean, like I said, we'll likely need to contact the county, find a day that they're able to send their representatives, unless the council just wants to take action without it. But it sounds like alternative sites and things like that, you probably need them to come.
You want to have the motion to resend it and then talk to them anyways at some point? Or do you want to wait to have them come in and then?
I would like us to vote on it now.
Okay, so then, yeah, that's kind of where I was like,
Yeah.
do you want to just put this on the next agenda and
I would like,
do what you want to do? Or do you want us to try to find a day that works for them to come and talk about it?
no, because I think a lot of the council members got feedback and the public was very unhappy with the decision. And I think that it needs to be rescinded, and then we can investigate where it might be better suited.
But tonight is not a vote to rescind it, to be correct,
That's correct.
because it's not on the
I'm
agenda.
just trying to figure out what item do you just want us to put a letter rescinding on the agenda and you guys can talk about it, vote on, or do you want us to
Yes.
get them to come and Okay, never mind.
Question was.
All right, that's simpler. So
Okay.
we can do that.
Now, one thing I was talking to the chief about was this PIO, is that what you
Press
have?
information officer,
A what?
press information officer.
Yeah, press information. I was asking him why the city doesn't have a press information officer. And, can we put something on the agenda for that to see if I'm sorry?
That I would say is hiring personnel, and I think it's been already directed to the new city manager to make sure that there's money in the budget for it.
No,
I think we had that conversation
is
before.
that correct? you
And
would-
yes, definitely, we need a PIO.
So, two thoughts. One, you guys don't have you haven't voted on the motion.
No.
And we've done that before. And then the other thing,
Oh,
Mayor-
on the.
yeah,
okay,
and
okay.
then Mayor, I think that there's been direction given on that already, but I think the new city manager could maybe brief you.
Okay,
where he is
perfect.
on
Thank
it.
you. So let's get back to the vote.
Just one more comment on that. I think it's better to take action on it now before it drags on. Right now, I've asked, I don't know how many people, what is the status of it? And nobody knows anything. So this could drag on forever. And the more time and money that the county invests in it, they're not going to want to back out of it. So I think that we need to take action on it now and at a minimum, say we don't want it in that location.
Okay, so we have to vote on it,
So,
to put it on the agenda.
right,
Okay, so
you have a motion.
you want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we put on the agenda to discuss the Health Recovery Center at our next meeting.
I have a second. I'll second it.
I have a motion by Councilmember Peterson, second by Mayor Males. Council, please cast your votes. That motion passes 3-2. Councilmember Meyer voting no, and Mayor Pro Tem Lowenthal voting no.
Any other agenda items that? No one? Okay. Yes. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned to the next city council meeting on February 28th, 2023. Thank you for joining us tonight. Oh, man, by how many minutes? Oh.